Hello, sixth graders. We are working on our fractions, and today we are going to learn about multiplying fractions. Learning target is I can multiply fractions and mixed numbers. So make sure you have the title and the learning target written down in your notes. Here we go. Okay, so we have some vocab here that we need to have written down. So please make sure that you have all of the words with the definitions written down in your notebook. The numerator, that's the top number in a fraction, represents the part. So if we had 3/4, the 3 is the numerator. The denominator, that's the bottom number in a fraction, and it represents the whole, how much it's out of. So again, in 3/4, the denominator would be 4. An improper fraction, this is when the top number is bigger than the bottom number. So it represents that we have more than one whole amount. So if I have 6/3, the top number is bigger than the bottom. That's an improper fraction. A mixed number, that's when we have a whole number with a fraction. So 1 and 1/4. Okay. This is a simplified form of an improper fraction. So we take an improper fraction and we turn it into a mixed number or vice versa. Okay, so multiplying fractions. Let's go ahead and write this part down here. Multiplying fractions. To multiply fractions, we multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. And it's really important to note that you do not need to have common denominators to multiply the fractions. So make sure you have that written down as well. If you find common denominators and then multiply, you're just adding more steps for yourself, because then at the end you're going to have to simplify more. So do not find common denominators. So what we do, like the directions are said, multiply the numerators and then multiply the denominators. So in our example here, 1/2 times 1/3. Start with our numerators. 1 times 1 is 1. Multiply the denominators. 2 times 3 is 6. So our answer is 1/6. Okay. Another thing here to note that you should write down in your notebook: when multiplying a fraction by a whole number, you need to write the whole number as a fraction with a denominator of 1. So we have this example here, 2 times 3/4. So I'm going to take this whole number and I'm going to write it as a fraction. And whole numbers always go over 1. So 2/1 times 3/4. Again, multiply numerators. So 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 4 is 4. We have an improper fraction, got to turn it to a mixed number. 4 goes into 6 one time with 2 left over. And that could simplify to 1.5 by dividing by 2. Okay, so if you ever have a whole number, put that number over 1.
Okay, now that you've had that stellar introduction from Mrs. Lobbs, let's give this a try. Feel free to try them on your own, pause and come back, or maybe do 1 or 2 with me. Here we go. So I'm multiplying 3/5 of 1/2. Remember, you're looking for a part of a small part already. So our number shouldn't be very big. What I'm going to do is I'm going to simply rewrite 3/5 times 1/2. I know that I can multiply my numerators. 3 times 1 is 3. Multiply my denominators. 2 times 5 is 10. I notice that I end up with 3/10. 3 is prime and 10 is not a multiple of it. So that is simplified. Their greatest common factor is 1. Don't forget to simplify. Next, I'm going to be multiplying 1/3 times 3/4. So remember, I'm only looking for a tiny third of 3/4. Help draw yourself a picture if you need to. Multiply your numerators. 3 times 1 is 3. Multiply your denominators. 3 times 4 is 12. So now I have to make sure that I check to see if I can simplify. 3 and 12 both share a factor of 3. Notice how I'm not saying I'm dividing by 3. I'm dividing each by 3, because if I divide by 1, nothing changes. The value doesn't change. I'm just simplifying my fraction. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So I know that 3/12 is the same as 1/4. 1/3 of 3/4 is 1/4. Last one, you can do it. So I have 2/3. I'm looking for 2/3 of 4. So I'm not quite looking for 1 whole. of 4. So I know my answer should be less than 4. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write my whole number as a fraction. 4 over 1, 4 divided by 1 is the same as 4. Now I can simply multiply my numerators. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 1 is 3. I have an improper fraction, 8/3, that I want to change to be a mixed number. I know that 3 goes into 8 2 whole times, which is 6. And that tells me that there are 2 of the whole 3 I'd need left over. So 2/3 of 4 is 2 2/3. Okay, so I don't know about you, but I'm ready to make this even easier for us. So there's this thing called cross-canceling. If we cross-cancel, we can make it easier for us to multiply. The deal is, at the end, we multiplied straight across, and that was easy. But at the end, we had to simplify. And when we simplify, we're looking for a common factor of the numerator and denominator. Well, kind of brings us back to our multiples and factors. So what we can do is, before we multiply, we can cancel if the diagonal numerator and denominator have a common factor. So let's see here. In 2/7 times 3/8. Because we could do 1/7 and 1/8, but we're going to look at 2/7 and 3/8. So what I notice here is that this numerator and this denominator, they share a factor of 2. So at the end of the day, when I'm done multiplying, I could divide by 2. But instead, I'm going to do it now. So I know that 2 goes into 2 1 time. 2 goes into 8 4 times. The 3 and the 7 don't share any factors. They're both prime. So now my cross-canceling is done, and I can just multiply straight across. So then I have 1 times 3, which is 3. 7 times 4, which is 28. So 2/7 of 3/8 is 3/28. Go ahead and try the next 3. Just try that canceling ahead of time instead of at the end. So here I see that this numerator and this denominator both have 3, which means they both share a factor of 3. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 3 once. So then I can simply multiply across. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 7 is 7. 1/3 times 3/7 is 1/7. And if you think about that, that would make sense, because 3/7, and we just want 1/3 of them, well, that'd be one of them. So here we go. 4/9 times 1/8. 4 goes into 4 once, and that same 4 goes into 8 twice. Then I can multiply across. So I'm just saving that simplifying at the end. 1 times 1 is 1. 9 times 2 is 18. So 4/9 of 1/8 is 1/18. Remember, 1/8 wasn't very big to start with, and we're looking for less than half of it. So we have a pretty small number. Last one here. Now, notice this numerator and this denominator are both 5. So they each share a factor of 5 one time. Looking at the other numerator and denominator, we have a 3 and a 6. They also share a factor of 3. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 6 twice. Sometimes you might want to rewrite this to make it a little neater for you. So now I've changed this to be 1/2 times 1/1. Well, look at that. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. That means that 5/6 of 3/5 is 1/2.
All right, so when you multiply mixed numbers, you follow the same steps, except there's a couple things you need to do beforehand when you start multiplying your fractions. So if we have this problem right here, 1/2 times 4 2/5, I can see that I'm taking half of 4 2/5, which is a mixed number. So first I need to rewrite it as an improper fraction. So 1/2 gets to stay the same as 1/2. Then I'm going to change 4 2/5 to an improper fraction. So 5 times 4 is 20 plus 2. So I have 22/5. I can either multiply straight across. So 1 times 22 is 22. And then 2 times 5 is 10. So I would get 22/10. And then, of course, I have to simplify that because an improper fraction is never in simplest form. So 10 goes into 22 2 times. 10 times 2 is 20, which means that there's 2 left over, and then keep 10 as my denominator. And then I need to simplify that because they can both be divided by 2. So it would be 2 and 1/5. I also want to show you, going back to 1/2 times 22/5, is that 2 and 22 can both be divided by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 22 divided by 2 is 11. So then I would do 1 times 11. We'll just do that right down here. And then 1 times 5. So 11/5. 5 goes into 11 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10, which means that I have 1 left over. Keep 5 as my denominator. 2 and 1/5. All right, if you want to try these next 3 on your own and then come back and check to make sure you got them correct. Otherwise, watch me do 1 or 2 and try the rest on your own, and then still come back and make sure you have them correct in your notebook. So if we have 1/4 times 8 and 4/9, I first have to rewrite as an improper fraction. So I'm going to neatly rewrite 1/4 times, and then 9 times 8 is 72. Plus 4, so I have 76/9. This one I'm going to cross cancel. If I don't cross cancel, I would end up with 76/36, and then you would simplify that way. If I do cross cancel, I can see 4 and 76 can both be divided by 4, so 4 divided by 4 is 1. 76 divided by 4 is 19. Then I multiply straight across with my new number. So 1 times 19 would be 19. 1 times 9 would be 9. I know that 9 can go into 19 2 times. 2 times 9 is 18, which means that there's 1 left over. So I have 2 and 1/9. 5 and 1/3 times 3. If I have a whole number, I need to put a 1 over it to make it a fraction. 3 over 1 is the same as 3 divided by 1, because this fraction bar really means division. 3 divided by 1 is 3. So we know that that's the same exact thing, except that it's giving me a fraction to be able to multiply by when I get to that step. So 5 and 1/3. 3 times 5 is 15 plus 1, so I have 16/3 times 3 over 1. 3 and 3 can both be divided by 3. So that's 1 and that's 1. So 16 times 1 is 16. 3 times 1, or sorry, 1 times 1, because I canceled that off to 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Anything divided by 1 is itself. So 16 over 1 is just 16. And then we have 1 and 7/8 times 2 and 2/5. So we have 8 times 1 is 8 plus 7, so 15/8 times 5 times 2 is 10 plus 2 is 12/5. I can multiply straight across, and I would have some very, very large numbers. So I'm going to cross cancel. If you want to multiply straight across and then simplify all the way down, that's fine. Just make sure that you get the same answer that I get. So 15 divided by 5, they can both be divided by 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 8 and 12 can both be divided by 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So then I do 3 times 3, which is 9. 2 times 1, which is 2. 2 9/2 is an improper fraction. It's not in simplest form. So 2 goes into 9 4 times, which brings me to 8. And then I have 1 left over and keep my denominator. So I have 4 and 1/2. So let's look at a couple of word problems that involve fractions and mixed numbers and how to set them up. So if it says humans sleep about 1/3 of each day, and if each year is equal to 365 1/4 days, determine the number of days in a year the average human sleeps. So that means that a human sleeps 1/3 of the 365 and a fourth days in the year. So right here, we worded it out again. Humans sleep about 1/3 of 365 and a fourth days. We're going to let D represent the number of days a human sleeps, which remember is 1/3 of the 365 and a fourth. So of turns into multiplication. So when we see 1/3 of something or a fraction of something, that means we're multiplying by that number. Then you can look over here for all of the work and for the answer to that problem. So if Sophia wishes to make 1/2 of a recipe, if the original recipe calls for 3 3/4 cups of flour, how many cups should she use? So she's taking 1/2 of 3 3/4 cups, which is the same as 1/2 times 3 3/4. And this dot means times. So remember, before I can multiply, I need to rewrite it into fractions. I need to change my mixed number into an improper fraction. So 1/2 times, and then we have 4 times 3 is 12 plus 3 is 15/4. So let's multiply straight across. I can't do any cross canceling because 2 and 15 both can't be divided by the same number. And then anything with 1 is already simplified, so we can't go any further than that. So 1 times 15 is 15. 2 times 4 is 8. Then let's change that to a mixed number. 8 goes into 15 one time. So it leaves me with 8. I'm taking 8 out. So that leaves me with 7 left over. So 1 7/8 cups of flour, because we're going to answer the question. So 1/2 of 3 3/4 cups is 1 7/8 cups of flour. Here's just all of the steps for multiplying fractions and mixed numbers. So I would suggest that you take a screenshot of this so you can keep this in your iPad and reference it when needed. Or if you want to write it down in your notebook, that's totally fine as well. Then please do these 3 problems at the bottom of your notes in your notebook. Make sure you write it out, show all your work. Remember to change your mixed numbers to improper fractions before you multiply, and then include this in your picture with your notes when you post this onto the Class Kick slide. And then that's all we have. So make sure your notes include title, learning target, vocab words, examples, anything else from the video that you wish to help you to remember and to include in your notes. Remember, you can always use your notes to help you while completing your assignments and assessments, and always have them available during your Zooms. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.